all look like people who have been to Cameroon. Okay, so you land in Douala, I assume. If you're going to Yaoundé from Douala, you go eastwards. We need to bring some balance on the scale. We will go to the west, to southwest to be precise. We have a speaker from Limbe with us today, from the southwest of Cameroon. He is also going to add to the pillar of how to best strategize. He is speaking from his experience on the ground, not about experts coming in from outside. He has worked with the people, and he wants to tell us how best we could come in. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have in our midst today Mr. Arrey Mbongaya Ivo. He is the director of the Center for Information and Development for Community and Development, thank you. And his topic is going to be harnessing sustainable development via a more active participation of the Cameroonian Diaspora. Welcome, Mr. Mbongaya Ivo.
I am the director of an organization that is striving to empower people through inclusive, bottom-top, not necessarily top-down approaches, so that we can have more people and stakeholders involved in development so that development can be vulgarized and it can reach the nooks and crevices of society. So that is going to be the angle that I'm going to be focusing on. This presentation seeks to establish the possibility of an increased diaspora participation in the socio-economic well-being of Cameroon. The word increase is also suggestive of the fact that there has been some participation. It just needs to be boosted. And we don't need to feel too bad that we've not been doing some things in the country. It draws arguments from academic research and local realities to establish this possibility while recognizing the existence of some infrastructural, psychological, and economic lapses that hinder the processes now, but which can be reshaped to harness a more active participation of the diaspora, both for their gains and the well-being of the state. Participating in Cameroon is not only for your well-being. A lot of people are going to be implicated by your participation. Therefore, you have to look at it in a holistic sense. It has the energy of generating change across subpopulations, and therefore it's going to affect horizontal and vertical inequalities between groups, subgroups, different subpopulations, tribes, and sections of the country. So it therefore goes with the trust, as I said, of a bottom-top, participatory, and partnership. And I'm very happy that the first two speakers have hammered on this point because it is very necessary. And it touches on technologies and investing in the value chain, and which I also think is necessary and can only work if you identify the right stakeholders. And it needs a lot of research for you to be able to know the right stakeholders to work with in Cameroon. So, we are from Cameroon, but I think all of us don't know about Cameroon and everything, so I'm giving a background check on Cameroon. And you know it's an elongated triangle in terms of how it looks, and it's about 475,440 square kilometers, of which about 402 kilometers is a coastline. That in itself tells you that a lot of things can happen in Cameroon in terms of tourism, in terms of investment, in terms of attracting foreign direct investments. And it shares boundaries with a lot of important countries in the region. Nigeria, for once, is one of the most populous nations in Africa. Therefore, it offers a ready market for much of the things that we can produce in Cameroon. And we should be thinking about not only enjoying or producing things in Cameroon, but also acting as a hub to supplement the scarcity in neighboring countries. We are about 20 million, and we occupy a very important and strategic position in the region. And of these 20 million, you have about 58.4% of the country, which is now classified as urban. Most of us still think that the majority of Cameroonians are staying in the rural areas. That is wrong because there seems to be a systematic migration to the city centers. But these people who get to the city centers, do they meet jobs and other opportunities when they get there? Are we facing a situation where the informal economy in Cameroon has been growing in a kind of exponential manner, and then the resources of the government and the private sector is not sufficient to meet up with this kind of explosion? We shall be looking at all these aspects within this presentation. And for the monetary unit of the country, the Communauté Financière Africaine, which is the CFA, and which was originally pegged to the French franc, and it's been pegged to the euro since January 1999. And you know the European Union is facing crisis. And about 2 weeks ago, there was a report that the crisis that this region is facing has indirect or direct consequences on the economies that are pegged to that place. That should be an innovation, and that should be a motivation for us to think about how to buttress a reason to invest in Cameroon, because if we leave Cameroon, probably it might be swallowed by the tempest that is coming from without, not necessarily from within. So we have major trading partners as France, Italy, Nigeria, Spain, and Germany, and then the United States of America. And the country's poverty reduction and growth rate with the IMF expired in January 2009. And with that, the country had to receive about $144 million in assistance to help protect the country from external shocks. But we are supposed to be active in shaping how we can protect the country from these external shocks. We must create a resilient country that can resist the shocks and stresses imposed from outside by implanting powerful institutions within that can resist the shocks and stresses that are coming from outside. I like what the doctor was saying and the other doctor about looking at the IMF and the World Bank statistics. If you actually depend on these statistics without looking at other indicators like subjective well-being analysis, you will be wrong, because it's going to be like you thinking that the figures actually match the reality. But let me ask you a question. How many families go in a year that have received maybe plantains from their neighbors as a gift that is not within the formal economy or the measurement of goods produced in Cameroon? How many people have been taken to the hospital because their neighbor sacrificed the time to carry them with his car to the hospital and so on, that if you measure the cost of petrol and you multiply it with the number of informal services that are done in the country, that is not within the number of goods that are being produced in the country. When you add this, Cameroon might not be a low-income economy, as you might be saying. It might just be a country that has a different model that is a little bit different from the prototype that you understand. This is not to dismiss the prototype, but it is to say the prototype needs a little bit of questioning. You know about IRAD, it's a government agency in Cameroon. They've been doing a lot of research, and sometimes their doctors are also trying to do some other private work. And of late, I interviewed the director of IRAD in Batoke on a shrimp project they are trying to establish there. And many people don't know they produce shrimps in Cameroon. Many people don't know that the larvae is produced in Kribi and is now being supplied, the young ones are now being supplied in Limbe. Many people don't know that they produce catfish and tilapia fingerlings in Limbe. And so a lot of people cannot even take to aquaculture recycling in the country because of naivety, ignorance, and the lack of knowledge. So we need a lot of collaborative agenda and networking between ourselves here in the diaspora and homegrown Cameroonians to be able to understand what is taking place in the country. With increased population, 20 million people, and with the price of meat now climbing to 2,500 per kilogram, it is high time for us to understand the fact that we need to step up the production of meat traditionally and with scientific methods. If you look at here, you will see data on dairy production in the country, and it is from Bayami et al., and you will look at the fact that around the 90s, because of the introduction of foreign breeds, milk production increased in the country. And it can be done by the diaspora. You are in Germany, they have the thoroughbreds of cattle and so on. You can work with farmers here to establish these things in the country. These dairy products, they have some traditional knowledge systems in Cameroon that have not been exploited. Do you know about the Bafut cheese? The Bafut cheese can be branded into a very unique brand of cheese for Cameroon and sold abroad to be able to make something for the country, the image, and for the person who is in charge of that.
Very multifaceted presentation, taking us back to the grassroots, to the goats behind the house, which the international observants don't see, to the frogs, to the giant cocks, and reminding us that while we eat bobolo, we shouldn't forget the vision that cassava bread could take us to other horizons and employ our brothers and sisters. And if I may chip in again, while we try to create these collaborations between the diaspora and the people in the grassroots, we shouldn't forget to pass through our embassies. I think in the same respect that they have given us over the years to come here, time is very expensive. I think that speaks for itself that they would give us endorsement for our projects, which will go a long way to cut down on some bureaucracy back home.